Dear friends, this is part second on Francis Bacon. So this video is number 17 70 in the series of British literature. So here we shall discuss his important work. The first one, Instauratio Magna. We shall discuss his essays as well, but first this work. Instauratio or Instauratio, however you may take these Latin names, Magna. Magna means great, so it can also be termed as Great Instauratio. This is a famous work by him, and this work talks about human life and how can we improve our human life or how can we get knowledge. So somewhere it is also compared to the Bible. It is said that it is the imitation of a divine work. One thing, as it is said that in Bible it is said that God created this universe in 6 days, and the seventh day he took a rest. So the seventh day is termed as Sabbath day. Sabbath day. I just write this word here. Sabbath day. Okay, one thing for knowledge, some Sabbath day, it begins with the Friday evening and ends with the Saturday evening. So this pattern we have 6 days God worked and the seventh day he took rest. Same way he has divided this work into 6 parts. So these 6 parts are partition of sciences, new method, natural history, ladder of intellect, anticipation of second philosophy or active science. These 6 parts. And out of these 6 parts, most are not written or not completed. The first two are important one. The first partition of sciences, and the other is new method. So now we shall take this work first, that is new method, this part. In this part, uh, he talks about the Aristotle's way of thinking, how he logically addressed the things. First, take this name, mostly you will see this name as well, Novum Organum. One thing I am saying, in this work you will see Latin names or Latin words I should say. So even the word like Novum Organum, these words we do not find in English. And you may even find the spellings quite different ones. So we are discussing, this is the part of Instauratio Magna, new method. Novum stand for new and organum may be for method. So published in the year around 1620. So here it has reference to the Aristotle's Organon. So now this is a work written by Aristotle, Organon. Organon. Aristotle followed one method. In the previous video, we discussed two methods, inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. The method Francis Bacon applied, that is inductive reasoning, and Aristotle applied, that is deductive reasoning. And for that one more word we have, that is syllogism. So syllogism and deductive reasoning are almost the same. So Francis Bacon here criticized syllogism or deductive reasoning, and against it he presented his method, that is of inductive reasoning, or you can also term it as Baconian method. From Bacon we have Baconian method. And the method you already know that in Baconian method he always says that first we have facts, and on the basis of those facts we shall draw a conclusion or a general statement. And one more thing about the cover of this work, you can also go to Google and search, you will see a picture. And okay, this is something literary, so that is why I have just mentioned here a galleon. Galleon means, you can say, ship. So in the picture you see a ship. Ship is passing between the two mythical pillars of Hercules. Now Hercules or Hercules, whatever it is, these are the pillars shown there. Otherwise, Hercules are the two natural rocks of Gibraltar or so. Okay, we do not go into the geography of that. Just remember, mythical figure or mythical pillar, I should say, here represent that the in the world the knowledge is limited, or the known world is very limited, and the ship is destructing those pillars. So the known world is limited and the ship is destructing, which means that there is so much more to know in this world. We cannot bound the knowledge. We cannot bind the knowledge, I should say, in any limit. So it is endless. So the ship is passing and destructing these pillars. And one more thing we can say, that these galleons or ship, they symbolizes that the old ideas will be smashed, they will be destructed, and the new ideas will be established. So this is the, you can say, representation of that figure that appears on the cover of that book. And there is even a Latin tag is there. uh, Under that picture there is a tag, and that is that in English, which means many will travel and the knowledge will be increased. Many will travel and the knowledge will be increased. So the knowledge cannot be limited or cannot be bound to any limit. So this is new method, Novum Organum. Simply it criticizes the old trend or the old methods of Aristotle's. And this work has two parts. The first, okay, these names are not that important, on the interpretation of nature and empire of man, and the other part is on the interpretation of nature or reign of man. The main thing is that in the central idea, if we take, that is how man can be great in his life. How can man achieve great heights? This is the whole thing is told in this work. The other work of Instauratio Magna, because I told you six parts, so here I am saying if work means part, that is advancement of learning. That is very important one, advancement of learning. Actually this part, advancement of learning, it comes as an introduction to this book, Instauratio Magna. You may say that the first part of Instauratio Magna is advancement of learning, and second part is new method. So just two things you have to remember about this work. Now, learning, how one learn. Even in the previous video we talked that Francis Bacon says that we learn through direct experiences. So empiricism, this is the thing we discussed. So he says that earlier people got knowledge from books, but Bacon insists that people should get pure knowledge, great knowledge by direct or indirect experiences and observations. So indirectly this is the foundation of scientific approach, because with experience and with observation we can get pure knowledge, and the knowledge that is with the scientific approach. This work, Advancement of Learning, is addressed to King James the First. Remember, James the First, he gave him the title of Sir, he gave him the knighthood. So he addressed the king, and here he discussed about the philosophical knowledge and also about the duties or the, you can say, understanding of the king. Yes, in Bible. But first I say, okay, Bacon appreciates King James the First for his knowledge, and he also speaks of his excellency and knowledge. He simply appreciates, and he takes one reference from Bible. King Solomon. Remember King Solomon in Bible. He says that one should not run after knowledge. One should not run after knowledge because it brings anxiety. Anxiety. Just try to recall what we have discussed before the period of Renaissance. The religious people, they were always asking the common people not to go for knowledge. Just take their preaches or preachings just as supreme. So they were restricting the people. But we have one named Martin Luther. He was saying that one should read Bible because earlier there was a ban for the common people. They were not allowed to read or keep Bible. So these are the things said in the Bible. King Solomon is saying that one should not go after knowledge because when you go for knowledge, you want to know more and more. It brings anxiety. People get restless, and rather, so they are saying that people should be ignorant, and if knowledge comes, if knowledge comes, then people would realize that they were having ignorance. So somewhere it is not good as far as Francis Bacon's opinion are concerned. Even we can also be agree to this idea that how can knowledge be wrong? So further, Bacon points out that King Solomon's opinion is not correct. It is somewhat wrong. He says, what he says, proud knowledge, because everything I'm saying here, everything is not written on the screen, just important words which I find, otherwise everything will go with the audio only. So he says proud knowledge that caused the fall of man. And if we have pure knowledge, so two knowledge he talks about. First is the proud knowledge that brings ego, proud, that sort of feeling in the man. And then we have pure knowledge. Pure knowledge brings benefit to the man. It inspires the man by the wonder and raises his standard. So this is the thing he discussed in the book 1 of Advancement of Learning, where he is saying that one should go for knowledge, and he criticizes King Solomon's opinion. And he also advocates the opinions of Martin Luther. You must remember this name when we discussed the Protestants and the traditional ones like Catholics. So that time we discussed Martin Luther. So he was of the views that one should read and interpret the Bible according to his own understanding. Now part 2, or the book 2 of Advancement of Learning. In this part we have so many, you can say, just facts, so we will not go deep into that. So first he says that we should check three objects of learning. Of learning, there are three objects. The first, places of learning, where one should learn. Places of learning. It can be institutions, offices, schools, whatever. Then books of learning. From the books where we can learn, like library or the ancient houses, or even the authors, you can say editions. These are called as the books of learning. So means the sources. The first are the places, the second are the actual sources. It can be the books or even the ancient places where we can learn. And then persons of the learned. Persons of the learned, and in that we have the readers who gets knowledge. So three things of learning he talks about: places of learning, books of learning, and persons of learned. And then he talks about the human understanding. And in human understanding, he talks about three things. The first, that is history. History is related to the memory, faculty of memory. Second is poetry. Poetry is the faculty of imagination. And then philosophy. Philosophy is the faculty of reason. So in human understanding, he talks about three things: history of the past, means the memory; poetry, that is the imagination; and the philosophy, that is the reasoning or the ability to reason. Then further he says that in understanding there are three aspects. These three aspects are divine, maybe related to God, yes, divine, human, and natural. So divine related to God, human related to mankind, and natural, it is related to the nature. And further he says that in divine philosophy, so related to God, he says there are three more aspects. So it's getting deep. So just go with it. In divine philosophy, there are three more aspects. The first is natural theology. Natural theology. Theology, wherever this word comes, theology. Theology means the study related to God. So, natural theology, where we have uh, lessons of God in nature, means in the nature we should or we can experience God. The next is reveal theology. Reveal theology. Okay, the first one is not written here, so I should write here natural theology. Okay. The next is reveal theology. Reveal means to produce something or uh, to open out something. Yes. So it is about the lessons of God in the sacred scriptures. So first in the nature and then in the religious scriptures, reveal theology. And then natural philosophy, it is about physics, metaphysics, math, music, geography, architecture, everything. And one more thing he talks about human philosophy as well, that is the study of the human mind. So in this book too of advancement of learning, there are various parts, and I know that we cannot remember all these parts, but one thing you should remember from these all these things. What? That he says that religion is a different thing and science is a different thing. We cannot mix up the two. He clearly draws a distinction between these two things. He says that there is a theological truth, a truth that is related to God, and there is a scientific truth that is purely on the basis of reason and knowledge, on the basis of facts, on the basis of arguments, on the basis of reasoning. So these are the things he discussed. So in this video we discussed Instauratio Magna, and in that we have the two parts, the two important ones, the advancement of learning and the new method, Novum Organum. Now we take up a few questions because one more work is there written by him, that is New Atlantis. Okay, we shall discuss that work in the next video and also his important essays. So here quickly we take up a few of the questions. The first we have the question from the previous year, match the list. There was a four options. There are like this: advancement of learning. We have to correctly match this option with Francis Bacon. Okay, the other works like Past and Present written by Thomas Carlyle and English Trait by R.W. Emerson. Okay, these works we are yet to discuss, so just forget them. Advancement of Learning by Francis Bacon. The next question, he that is not with us is against us, and he that is not against us is with us. Who said this? So this is a quote from his, I think one of his essays, so I just mentioned here. So it is written by Francis Bacon. If someone is not with us, simply he is against us. And if someone is not against us, it means he is with us. From this we can derive one conclusion, that we cannot be neutral in any situation. We are anytime we will be at one position, either left or right, this side or that side, but not neutral. This is, I think, we can conclude. The next one, which two of the following inspired the rise of periodical essays? So both the names you know, father of essays, Michel de Montaigne, and the father of English essays, that is Francis Bacon. These two are the essayists, periodical essays. They inspired actually. The next one we have, in the advancement of learning, Bacon noted the need for more studies of. So in that part of that that is the main work we discussed, Instauratio Magna. In that we have advancement of learning, that is the first part, and which two are the topics we can say. The first is more knowledge and the second is civil knowledge. These two are the need. So he does not talk about forbidden knowledge or spiritual knowledge. Okay, civil knowledge means the knowledge that is required in the society for a good society. That is, find the chronological order, the correct chronological order of these writers. Okay, before looking into the answer, I would suggest you, uh, from these writers, if you have ever gone through any sort of a history or of English literature, or in you have gone through the different periods, some of the writers you can easily identify, like Charles Lamb. He belongs to the Romantic era. Okay, he is an essayist, but he belonged to the period of 70, okay, working period like 1790s, 80s, and then 1800, and then up to almost 1830. So Charles Lamb, he was born in the year 7075. So next, if you know the name John Dryden. John Dryden was his senior, okay, existed before his period in the late 70s, 17th century, I should say. So he was born around 1630 or so, and so 17th century. So John Dryden chronically exists before Charles Lamb. Other name like Richard Steele. Richard Steele is also of the 17th century, late 17th century, from 1700 to 1730 or so, like that period. And after that, we have one more name, Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold is the latest. He belongs to the Victorian age. Matthew Arnold, so 1850 70, this is his active period. From all these facts, what we can conclude, Francis Bacon is the oldest one. He existed before all these one. So it has to be D. After D, we have uh, the name Dryden because he was in the early 17th century. So DC, after that we have Richard Steele, A and then B and then E. So this is the correct order. So just try to, okay, we haven't gone through all these writers, okay, need not write these things or we cannot mug up because in the UGC NET exam sometimes we face such questions where we have one or two such chronological questions. So there we have to answer with our judgment. Okay. So next, who was the author of the Novum Organum? So do I need to answer anything about this? So pretty simple. That is Francis Bacon. And the other name for this is new method. Novum Organum, new method. Other name for this work. Moving on. The next question, what is the correct chronological order for these writers? So now again we have to answer this question. So what is the correct chronological order? So Joseph Edison, Francis Bacon, we know this. Charles Lamb, we have already talked about him. Late 18th century, or you can just say from the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century, you can count like 1800 or so. So romantic writer, Virginia Woolf, modern era. Virginia Woolf, so quite modern. And then we have Matthew Arnold, Victorian writer. So Virginia Woolf has to be the latest. So D has to be the last one. The earliest one is of course Francis Bacon again. And even in the exams, you will find that these chronological questions have one or two such options by that you can easily reach to the final answer. If you are sure about that D comes at the last and E comes just before that, ED. So possibly you will find only one unique option. Okay, so by that you can conclude, but we will go deep into the answer. So we start with B, Francis Bacon. After that we have Joseph Edison. Joseph Edison is also born in the late 17th century, and his lifetime is not that long, just a limited 40-50 years he lived. And after that we have Charles Lamb, romantic writer, and then Matthew Arnold and Virginia Woolf. Okay, so next one more question we shall take up, that is, which work of Francis Bacon explains the new logic or inductive method of reasoning? So remember, his method, Baconian method or inductive method of reasoning is discussed in the Novum Organum. Novum Organum. Among these names, like the first, okay, it's a difficult to pronounce, apophthegms, something like that, or History of Henry the Sixth, Seventh, De Augmentis Scientiarum. So I just tell you about this work. This work, De Augmentis Scientiarum, actually, uh, just I should write here. This is the work we already discussed, the advancement of learning. Okay, so the Italian name or Latin name or whatever the name I like, for new method we have Novum Organum, and for advancement of learning we have De Augmentis Scientiarum or whatever it is. So these are the important questions. A few more questions we shall discuss in the next video, where we shall discuss his other work, that is New Atlantis. That is also very important work, and also his famous essays. So what we discussed in this video, remember Instauratio Magna and his main two parts. The first one is of course advancement of learning, that is the introduction, and then new method, Novum Organum. So these things you have to remember, and also remember the things like his inductive method, and the he also criticized Aristotle, and also Bible. In Bible, the address of King Solomon, he just criticized those things. Okay. So thank you all for watching this lesson, and have a very, very nice day.